Hey guys, the character Sentinel just released and we're gonna take a look at how to play her right now.
Second-class soldier Marianne Tenebra is charged with the following crimes. Unauthorized use of arcane skills.
She is very simple and straightforward, plays herself, and there is really not much to it, so we won't be here for long. But let's take a look. She is all about one singular mechanic, and that mechanic is called Fresh Wound. Why? Because this is the mechanic that fills the Bloodtithe more than the normal means. You see, Nautica, Semmelweis and now Sentinel, they all have the effect that the team accumulates Bloodtithe when a character would lose HP. Okay, this is the normal mean. Now, what makes Sentinel special is the mechanic that you gain 50% increased points of Bloodtithe if you lose HP via this Fresh Wound mechanic. So you have to apply Fresh Wound to yourself, and then at the start of every single turn you will lose HP, and this HP loss effect specifically fills the Bloodtithe more than it usually would. You might now think 50% is actually not that big of a deal. It is, because you can stack Fresh Wound multiple times, and at 2 stacks you fill it by 100%. 3 stacks fill 150%. You know what I mean? The point is, Sentinel accumulates more Bloodtithe for Nautica than any other character in the game would, and that's why you play her. Now, how to play her is very simple, because all you ever have to do is activate this channel and then everything happens by itself. You gain stacks of Fresh Wound by being able to cast your incantation number 2 completely for free. You get a status here called Locked On, and then whenever an enemy would use an attack, Sentinel will counter-attack this enemy by using her incantation number 2 at rank 1, and this gives you 2 stacks of Fresh Wound. Every time she does it, she can do it 2 times per turn, unless you recast the channel incantation one more time to gain additional stacks of Locked On. And that's it. You activate the channel, and that's how you play Sentinel. That's about it. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that this grants you 6 stacks of bullets, and yeah, you will use these bullets up every time you attack. Once these 6 stacks of Dread Bullet would run out, the channel would end. That is none of your concern, as you will see when we actually jump into battle. That's about it, right? Then we have to take a look at her ultimate. You will deal damage to all enemies, and for every stack of Fresh Wound you will gain a damage multiplier here, so it boils down to you dealing more damage the more stacks of Fresh Wound you have. Then, since the Fresh Wound damages yourself every single turn, you will get hurt, and by using your ultimate you remove all the stacks of Fresh Wound from yourself, and this will heal you up to full HP. So you activate the channel, and right before you use your ultimate, you want to use your incantation number 2 actively to gain additional stacks of Fresh Wound before you use your ultimate, so that your ultimate will deal more damage. Alright, now let's take a look at something else, because you will have to place Sentinel in your team behind Nautica. Nautica has to stay in front of Sentinel. That is very important, because you want to apply the Dread Bullet to Nautica, and the bullet is only applied to the character in front of Sentinel. That is extremely important. You can see this right here when in her channel, that you consume 1 point of Bloodtithe. That's nothing, right? That is nothing of your concern. You grant 7 stacks, that is here P2 because it's the survey. You grant 7 stacks of Dread Bullet to the adjacent ally in front, and that's what you want to do. This increases Nautica's damage output flat, and thanks to Sentinel's insight number 1, When an ally has a dread bullet, they gain critical hit rate plus 40%. That is gigantic, and that is what you always want to have on Nautica. So Nautica has to stay in front of Sentinel in your team. Where you place these characters, if you place them in the back, in the front, in the middle, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that Sentinel stays behind Nautica, so Nautica receives the bullet. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump into battle. And when we jump into battle, then the priorities of like what characters you actively use changes a little bit. The first rotation is already a little bit different because, yeah, of course, you want to buff Nautica with Semmelweis. Now, you always, those are the two things that you do at your start. Every single time you buff Nautica with Semmelweis and you activate the channel now with Sentinel. And then you, if you have it at your disposal, you will use both of Nautica's incantations, right? Use as many incantations with Nautica as you have every single turn, right? So here it depends a little bit now. If you want to, you only activate the counter in battles that would go on for quite a while, right? Most battles they end at turn 2 anyways, so activating the counter would not be like truly necessary. Now with Sentinel in your team, it becomes a little bit better to activate the counter first, because you make more and better use of the critical hit rate that the dread bullets give you. So I would recommend now that you always activate her counter incantation first. Yeah, and then you use whatever else you have available for Nautica, and that's about it. Now we activate the channel, boom. That grants Sentinel everything that she needs, and you see that we have 9 bullets because of P2 on Nautica. And now every single time Nautica counter attacks, she will use up a bullet. You can also see that Sentinel has bullets, and you have to keep in mind, see, she attacks 2 times every single time and an enemy attacks. And once these bullets would run out, your channel would run out. You have to keep it a little bit in mind. It doesn't matter too much, because you can see we have 3 stacks of locked on. You will get 2 stacks of locked on without portrays. Keep that in mind. So you will only use 2 bullets of those every single turn, unless you use your incantations actively, which you will do. And yeah, this is what it all comes down to. See, and on turn 2 we have unlocked Nautica's ultimate. And yeah, that is just how you play Bloodtithe, right? Sentinel changes this only a little bit. So you use Medicine Pocket's debuff on the enemy with the highest amount of HP. You will then proceed to fill the Bloodtithe as much as possible. Now, if you have Nautica's incantation, of course, you use those. Otherwise, if you, let's say you wouldn't have access to Nautica's incantations, you use Sentinel's incantations right now. Sentinel is the second priority. Yes, she plays herself passively, but if you don't have Nautica, it is your best choice in your best interest to use Sentinel actively to accumulate more stacks of fresh wound and get your ultimate up quicker. But Nautica is still the highest priority. So debuff with Medicine Pocket, attack with Sentinel, go ahead, use the array from Semmelweis, and ult with Nautica. This is how you will end pretty much every single battle in this game on turn 2 still. And you see, you don't need Sentinel. You already did the exact same thing with Eternity in your team. Sentinel does not matter and is complete overkill for this team. That's why I always say she is not a must pull, and you can totally feel free to skip her. There's no reason to play her, right? But if you want to, then this is how you play her. Very, very, very simple. You only activate ever her channel. And you only proceed to keep playing her if you don't have incantations up with Nautica. And that's about it. Now I can, yeah, you have to of course like keep track of these bullets, recast your channel like every 2 or 3 turns, which again, it will almost never happen for you to have to do that, right? But I want to mention it. So now you can see we have unlocked Sentinel's ultimate. Now we want to gain as many stacks of fresh wound as we can. So we would go ahead, use her incantation number 1 actively. You can even recast her channel if you want, but it's not necessary. Let's do it though. Recast her channel. Then we would go ahead and use her ultimate, and after we used her ultimate, she will be at full HP again. By the way, since the enemies died even before we used Nautica's ultimate, we didn't use Nautica's ultimate. Otherwise, if that ultimate would have come through, Nautica would be at full HP already again as well, right? And then the next turn you will heal Sentinel to full HP, so you are basically pretty much unkillable, and you deal more damage than any other team in the game would, like by far. It's not even close, right? And yeah, that's really about Sentinel, right? Activate the channel, place her behind Nautica, use her incantation number 1 actively, only right before you use her pretty cool ultimate that you just saw. And that's about it. That's how you play Bloodtithe, that's how you play Sentinel. By the way, Portray number 1 is highly recommended because it increases the critical hit bonus of Dread Bullet to 40% from 30%, and it doubles the Bloodtithe that you gain from Fresh Wound. So that is absolutely incredible and something that you should not pass up. I hope this video was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day. Don't forget to join the Discord server, and we love this game.